Okay, so now we are going to learn how to make a shapefile. So a shapefile is a file used in GIS, essentially making a vector data set that we can use to map a variety of features. So to do a shapefile, there's a few different buttons that you need to click. So the first one is this tool here. It looks like a line feature, the valley in the middle of it. So if you click it or you highlight it, it says new shapefile layer. So that opens here, file name. So let's say we'll map faults. And you may want to be more descriptive later, but for the purposes of this demo, we'll just say faults. Geometry type. So you have the options of point, multi-point, line, or polygon. So if we're mapping a fault, we'll want to use line. And then you have this option here of the coordinate system that the shapefile will be saved in. So the default option is this EPSG 4326 WGS 84. So this is latitude and longitude. Your other option is the project coordinate reference system, and that is the reference system of the data set. So in this class later, we'll talk about some of these different issues with coordinate systems, but for now it's important that every product that you make is saved in the same coordinate system. It just makes it much easier to deal with your data sets, particularly if you export them into a different software program. So here we'll want to say project coordinate reference system, and it's this UTM zone 11N. And then you get this option of new field. So you can add different, say, criteria if you want to use for your mapping to describe, say, the confidence in your mapping, what you're mapping, what data set you've used, say, for example, if it's a primary or secondary fault. So we'll add, actually, so automatically I have this field called ID, which is integer, kind of length of 10. But let's add a new field, and we'll call it data set. So in the case, say you're mapping from both LiDAR and air photos, then you could specify what data set you were using for the mapping. Here in type, you have options. You have text data, whole number, decimal, date. So for a data set, for example, here we press LiDAR or type LiDAR. So a length of 80 characters is good. And then once we're done, say add to fields. And then say we want to make another field called confidence. Either we could leave this as text, but say we come up with a numerical scheme for ranking our mapping, could also be a number. So we'll see that as a whole number. Here we have option of at most 10 units, so that's fine. Say okay.
Did you want to add the confidence to the?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so you have to say add to fields list, otherwise it won't be there. So now we have these 3 different fields that actually we'll have to specify each time we map a feature. So then you say okay. And you see that faults appeared here in our layers window. So QGIS is symbology, I think, is quite small and quite hard to see. So if you double click on symbol or on faults, you'll get this layer properties window. And then if you come to symbology, you can change the symbols that are used for the mapping. So with the default is set at 0.26, we can instead put it at 1, so it'll be a little bit thicker. It changes each time you make a new shapefile, the default color changes, but let's make this one blue. You can also use these other symbols. So we'll say apply, and then OK. Are there any questions?
If you tried to create the shape files and then it said it couldn't because it was a read-only file type, is that maybe like the software or how I opened it? Or I could actually just like wait till after class to ask these.
I've never gotten that error. I'm wondering if it's where you tried to save it on your computer.
Okay.
So maybe actually make sure that you're saving it still in that drive where we were putting everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So your units are in millimeters. Should we switch that to map units, or should we just keep it in millimeters for the default?
Where do you see that?
In symbology, in the faults. Yeah, right there.
Yes.
I mean, I figure millimeters would be fine since the map is in meters, but I just wanted to ask for later.
No,
on.
I've never switched this.
Okay.
This actually may, what this will change is when you zoom, I believe when you zoom in and out, how the width of the line changes.
Oh, cool.
So if you zoom in and out and you don't like how the width changes, then you can change this. So if it's millimeters, then it'll always have a thickness of, for this case, 1 millimeter. If I zoom all the way out like this, or if I zoom in. So when you're done, you may want to change that parameter around so that it looks good at different scales.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, so then to start mapping, you want to click your shapefile and then go up to this pencil. Click the pencil, and then you click this add line feature. So you're adding a polygon, you'll have add polygon feature here, and the button will look a little bit different. So I'll just map something very quickly. So you can see that when you map, it adds this red line. And then when you're done, you can right click. And so you get this option here. So ID, you can name it whatever you want. Data set, we're mapping it from LiDAR. So we'll add LiDAR. So if you wanted to say what particular product or derivative of the data set, you could also write that. So for here, we'd want to say slope, and then confidence, come up with a scale later. Say we decide this is 4. So we can say, okay. And then here's our line.
So I've got a question.
Yes.
So it is showing like that feature attributes, but in the ID box it says null, and it won't let me type anything there. What did I do wrong?
Try either, if you're pressing a number or letter, try the opposite one. So I think sometimes it's got that limitation of if it's a number or a text.
Yeah, at least that's what I
Yeah,
had.
that's what it was. And my number lock key wasn't on, so.
Yes.
Cool, thanks.
Yep. So actually yesterday when I was playing around this, I did this mapping, and then each time it actually wouldn't map the shape file when I had finished. And it turns out that if you're using a lot of memory on your computer, or recently used memory on your computer, then the shapefile actually won't be saved, and you won't, or the line won't be saved, and you won't see it. So in this case, you actually have to shut your whole computer down and then restart it, and then it works fantastic.
So should we save now?
Yes, so you can save both your shapefile by, say, this button here that says Save Layer Edits. So you want to do that, and then you'll see actually your pencil changed colors for the fault. And
Yeah,
then
if I can just add one, go ahead. Sorry, Chelsea, go ahead.
And if you want to save your project, you go up to Project and then Save.
Yeah, and this is key just to remember that the project is not the same as the data set. So the project is kind of the container that holds like all the ways you're displaying everything. And so you can save the project, but if you don't also save the shapefile, you won't save the updates to shapefile. And in some senses, it's more important to save that shapefile because we've had people, I was saving the whole time. And it's like, yeah, you were saving the project. You didn't save the mapping. So, just save the most important, save your shapefile, and just, be really religious about it, because that's where your real creative hard work is going. And that shapefile can exist, outside of the project. You can put it in other projects. So maybe I'm stating the obvious, but that's just something Chelsea made me think of when she said that sometimes QGIS can misbehave. Because you every now and then you just have to quit and start and restart, but as long as you've been saving your mapping, it'll appear again.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a whole lot easier to build a new project if you have all the data.
Yes, it's an excellent point. So when you have, say, multiple shapefiles, which often you will, they'll all be listed here. And one recommendation is when you change to map between the different shapefiles is to go and save your progress on the shapefile you just did.
So just to clarify, if we save the project after we've edited the fault shapefile, it won't save our edits to the fault shapefile.
Correct.
Right. Okay, got it.
So if you go to the save up here, you're basically saving the container, so it'll reopen everything within your project to the last point where each of the files within your project were individually saved. So then to map on different shapefiles when they're all listed here, you just click on the different shapefiles, and then the default will be to change to mapping the new shapefile.
So if I wanted to continue with this line that we already drew and just keep adding to it, what's the best way to do that?
So I would actually just normally make a new line. Let's see. I'm not sure how to reselect either the line that you had done before.
Yeah, I think it's okay to have a lot of small line segments you know, they're pretty easy to keep building. And it's a kind of style thing, but we know these faults are discontinuous. So it's okay if you break the lines. It's also easier to edit, you know, rather than having a huge one that you're like, oh crap, I messed it up, and you have to delete and redo that whole line. Just do a somewhat shorter lines.
My only concern would just be like if you're trying to say do something with closing polygons or something, and you had maybe the endpoints not totally lining up, and if that would cause some kind of issue with that, if you were, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, and it's basically something like editing the vertices. You want to add some vertices or reoccupy that line, and I guess none of us is quite experienced enough, but for sure it exists. I think I found it if you go, Chelsea, there to the right of yeah, that one, vertex tool. I clicked on that, and then I clicked on the end, and it looked like I continued the line. Yeah, there you go. So click some more.
Oh yeah, but you can go from there.
So this is a good one because hopefully you can there, added a vertex, and then oh wait, see right there at the end, Chelsea, there was a little, go back the circle, see that plus. Yeah, click there. The plus.
Yeah, so if you do the plus, then you can add new points.
Yeah,
yeah.
There you go.
Perfect.
So essentially it's similar to ArcGIS if you can learn how to grab a vertex.
Yeah, got it.
How do you delete a line that you don't like?
So if you had just done it, you can do Control Z to get rid of it. Your question probably is going to be through selecting the vertices.
You can select the arrow that's pointing at the box at the top right, up and to the right, up one tool layer, all the way to the right, more, about 5 more, keep going, keep going, keep going, that one, oh, past it, one more over, that one. And if you select it, you can just press the delete button on your keyboard and it'll get rid of it.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, just like anything, it's just finding the right tool box, you know.
Yeah.
And so the nice thing about QGIS is if you Google many of these problems, there's either find the answer in discussions or I think most often on YouTube videos.